Back to our election coverage this morning, and we're joined now by political scientist, BYU Idaho political science professor Matt Miles for full coverage this morning. Good morning. How are you? Thanks for joining us so early. It's been
I know.
a long night.
Yeah.
It has been a long night. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so Matt, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the presidential race right away. From your perspective, you've been researching this. I mean, what happened throughout the night?
So I think that the hard thing to predict in any election, and maybe why so many people are surprised, is who is actually going to come out to vote. And typically you see that when there's lower voter turnout, that voter turnout tends to be more white and working class. And so it's exactly what you saw this election. The white working class voters turned out to vote for Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton supporters weren't enthusiastic enough to come out and vote for her.
That's kind of a shock because, you know, all the polls were talking about, you know, Hillary Clinton has an edge. It was a slight edge. It wasn't a big margin. But with, you know, with these behaviors and these changes and people not coming out to the polls, and now Trump is the winner, basically, what can we expect from him as the next president?
I think you should expect Donald Trump to try to unite the country. It's in the Republican Party and Donald Trump's best interest to try to represent all of the United States of America. Perhaps maybe the best analogy would be the Thomas Jefferson election of 1800. It was a very divisive campaign. It was even more close than this election was, and Thomas Jefferson came out and he said, we are all Americans, we need to unite, and we need to put the election behind us. And you see almost every presidential winner, they'll do that. They try to unite the country and bring people together.
Yeah, and so kind of talk a little bit about this whole campaign cycle. I know a lot of people, words used to describe it, divisive, contentious. What do you really think, though? I mean, you've talked about kind of, there was just kind of this poll, like none of the polls really showed that Trump would come out on top. And so, but you're crediting this to kind of a hole in the research or the predictions.
Yeah, so the challenge with predicting elections is knowing who it is that is going to turn out on election day. And so when people make models and try to predict the election outcomes, they're looking at previous elections. And if the same voters voted in this election that had voted in the previous elections, we probably wouldn't be so surprised today. But because Donald Trump has a media personality, he has a reality TV show, Donald Trump has a following, and he brought new voters to the polls. And so for the same reasons we were surprised that Obama won by so much, we're surprised that Trump won by so much, because they both brought out new voters to the polls.
Wonderful. And Matt, thank you so much. And we're going to be joined with Mr. Miles all throughout the morning, getting your perspective. But again, thank you so much for being here. We're glad to have you bright and early this morning.